Assemble yourselves and come. Draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations. They have no knowledge that set up the wood of their graven image and pray unto a God that cannot save. The book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 20. I don't believe it's any coincidence that Boss Man's got me up in the book of Isaiah for my scripture assignment this month, any more than it's a coincidence the events of earlier this week or any of a number of personal struggles that I have going on heading into this Palm Sunday. Assemble yourselves and come, draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations. They have no knowledge that set up the wood of their graven image and pray unto a God that cannot save. What better way to sum up the depraved nature of our current cultural zeitgeist in this chapter right here in this verse? Praying unto a God that cannot save, setting up the wood of their graven images. We are not that far removed in this day and age from worshiping at the temple of Baal, child sacrifice, profaning the sacred, defiling all that is holy, or at the temple of Moloch, ancient Babylonian god that also required devotion to depravity and child sacrifice. I mean, it sure is a damn good thing that the elites and leaders of the world aren't doing mock sacrifices to Moloch or anything. Bohemian Grove. We're there, boys and girls. It is said in the scriptures, thou cannot serve both God and mammon, and yet we bow at the temple of greed. Consumerist, cultural, and material possessions are the be-all, end-all of what we spend all our time and effort pursuing as a culture. The succubine temptresses of lust in the pornography industry, exacerbating that depravity. And I'm not calling out anyone more than I'm calling out myself when it comes to the demons of lust. What better way to undermine a culture than by elevating the 7 deadly sins to a level of what is considered virtue? They have made every effort to this end, and they have been largely successful. But I think beyond the worship of these gods that cannot save, nothing more epitomizes that than the worship of the state. Ludwig von Mises says the worship of the state is the worship of force. There is no more dangerous menace to civilization than a government of incompetent, corrupt, or vile men. And I would submit to you that we have all of the above in very, very recent history, and we are weeding them out as best we could, but it may very well be too little too late. Only time will tell. The worst evils which mankind ever had to endure were inflicted by governments. Even famous leftist Noam Chomsky. There certainly are those who worship the state much as divinities are worshipped. Not just the state, but even leaders. So what does it say when we finally have a leader who is against the interest of the state as defined realistically and not purely politically? But we can get into that more in a little bit. The state is worshipped much as divinities are worshipped, and that includes all of the policies of said state. Their double standards, as exemplified here in this article from the Daily Mail out of Britain. Now, this article's a few years old, but it certainly hasn't improved since then. In the interest of diversity, equity, and inclusion, a doctor, a secular doctor, who botched it and caused a baby to be decapitated during birth, was returned and is still employed with the National Health Service in Britain. Now, that's Britain, the model for what all the state-sponsored healthcare people want to chase here in the States. Why don't we have it like Britain? Why don't we have healthcare like Britain? That same system sacked a Christian doctor because they refused to engage in gender-affirming care. The double standards are endless. up to and not limited to, certainly, the fact that we are supposed to take the violence of the Antifa maggot mob and these terrorist supporters, however they choose to dress themselves up, their actual violence is elevated to the level of virtue by the state, while people peacefully praying outside an abortion clinic are later treated to armed federal agents kicking in their door at 6 o'clock in the morning, carting them off to prison. Down is up is down, war is peace, freedom is slavery. And of course, we are compelled to worship at the altar of tolerance. And we're going to tolerate ourselves right out of existence if we're not careful. Now, this is just a meme, but I want you to ponder it. Just remember when that time comes and we are demanded, our fealty, our worship, for lack of a better word, is demanded by the aforementioned state. Just remember when the time comes, while we were teaching our kids to be tolerant of others' beliefs, these other cultures, thanks to the state-sponsored doctrine of cultural equivalency, they're just like us. They all want the same things. Couldn't be further from the truth. We are teaching our kids how to love and embrace everyone. They are teaching their children to kill us. And yet, that fealty, that worship, still demanded by the power of the state. I would imagine better than half of you gathered here, if not all of you, are familiar with the theory of Pascal's wager, that better to gamble on the existence of a God than to gamble against it when your eternal life may or may not be at stake. While I was doing show prep, I found this little meme. Just taking a look at the guy, he epitomizes what a lot of us either live or aspire to. Barbells and cigarettes. Pascal's wager updated for the 21st century. God may or may not be real, but the other side is so passionate, so committed to worshiping Satan, evil, homosexuality, or pick your depravity, and corrupting children. Again, let's not forget that was the real tipping point, not just for myself, but for a whole lot of people who have had that red pill moment over the last 4 to 6 years. God may or may not be real, but the other side is so passionate, so committed to worshiping Satan, evil, depravity, and corrupting children that even if God wasn't real, believing in him to fend off these demons is preferable. I gotta agree. On a physical level, on a political level, and on every other level. Believing in him to fend off the demons that we right and clearly face and are in a fight for our very existence with is preferable to not believing anything. You would be amazed at the number of people that I interact with that have never entertained a thought of walking in faith, but they are finally coming to the realization that a lot of us already have, which is that outside the lens of spiritual warfare, none of what is going on makes any sense whatsoever. It is literally the only lens which serves to reconcile all that is going on in the world right now. Now, we'd like to think that we could count on those people that I'm interacting with, that when the time comes, they're going to rise to the occasion. But the fickleness of the mob should never be underestimated. Particularly right now, this is Palm Sunday. This is commemorating the Sunday where our Lord and King, Jesus Christ, made his triumphant entry into Jerusalem. He rode on the back of a donkey. They were expecting a conquering warrior king, and what they got instead at that time was a Prince of Peace. But the mob came out for him nonetheless. They strewed the path before him and his donkey with palm leaves. Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Our King has come, our King has come. One would have thought this would be a pretty pinnacle moment for the carpenter. And his followers in that moment were probably feeling pretty good about life. But less than a week later, this exact same mob would be cheering and jeering and spitting and thrashing and egging on the Romans, screaming, "Crucify him, crucify him." Do not count on those outside, those known to you, to be ready to rise the occasion. And indeed, some of those closest to you may not come around when the time comes. But have yourself prepared and build yourself a community and make that community strong. Strengthen, moreover, the bonds of the community itself, because that moment isn't coming. It is at hand. The only thing that we can count on is the divine will and plan of the boss man and the grace and love of the carpenter. Dear God, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nation, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. That is what God has for us. Peace, love, compassion, grace, forgiveness. These all have their place. These all have their moment. But when the moment of actual conflict comes at hand, there's not going to be time for hippie Jesus. It's going to be about table flipping Jesus and scour cities from the face of the earth, Old Testament God. That moment has arrived. We are in the early stages. In the book of Mark, chapter 13, it talks about these are the birth pangs, and but their days be numbered, no flesh shall be spared. If we are indeed to be his battle axe and weapons of war, if we are indeed to be his army, to break in pieces the nations and to destroy kingdoms, we need to hone that iron to a fine edge. Remember our place in this moment. Remember our place in the faith. And remember, I read the book. We win. Don't let that be an excuse to slack in the moments leading up to. The boss man and the carpenter have a calling for us all. And the more sideways it gets, the louder the trumpet gets on that calling. The only question that remains is whether or not you're going to be up to answer the call. Don't let that moment find you wanting. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. That one is for the sake of you docs happy Antifa maggots out there. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all known jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They're coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to stretch open that unwilling maw with a pry bar if necessary and force feed you fistful after black latex glove clad fistful of the truth cock until you bleed from your eye sockets and finally pull your head out of your ass and accept the reality of things as they are rather than things as you would like them to be. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Glad y'all made it. Palm Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. We'll clear it up in a moment. What I need to know now is where the fire is in the room. Everybody in for the drum roll, people. Come on. Hard charging out of the starting gate, as we always come charging hard out of the starting gate with that bumper music, Red Desert. Gut-stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide whether or not I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. This week has been a mixed bag. We're going to see how it all comes to fruition over the course of the next couple of hours. But I'm glad you guys made it out. Thank you for sharing the moment with me. I love you all. Let's jump over here to the comments section. Let's see which one of the usual suspects are on early. Look at this. Deacon Mark Deacon Mark winning the gold medal. Hey, he says he was late being there, but good for you, Deacon Mark. I was late getting this thing started. I had to go back through and sort out the whole thing with the production screen. Apparently, I had neglected one little detail. See, this is the thing. It's like skydiving, man. It's never the beginners that get killed. It's the guys that have thousands of jumps and they forget that one little basic thing. I kind of did that, but with StreamYard, so the stakes are a lot lower. So there's that. Deacon Mark on board. We got brother Joel Allen Jackson. He lives by the river. The Ohio River, sir? Yes. I went down that river once when I was a child. We'll spare you, man. Just watch Apocalypse Now. You already know where it's going. The OG Sinner Sister herself, the divine Miss Emmy. Mwah. Good to see you, Mama. Very, very pleasant to have you on board as always. And of course, where would we be without Roman? You're fantastic, brother. God bless you. I am so thankful for your presence in my life and Carrie's presence as well. And tell her I got her message and I am deeply appreciative. I'm sure she is lurking somewhere in the background. It's always interesting, man, because you guys, like, I know most of the time you're in the same place, but you check in under, it's like, are you in different rooms of the house watching the program? It seems a little inefficient, but hey, man, I'm all about it. If just one of you shows up, I'm happy, man. I'm just happy that you guys are still around. And of course, where would we be without OG Reverend Ranger and Prophet of Doom, Mr. Dennis Wander? What is this? Hey, kids, I may or not be able to stay on live. Hey, that's cool, man. You're on the southern border hunting rocks, and you got to pick up dinner at prep work. Okay, hey, brother, listen, you get a real life pass for that. I don't know. Well, it's safe to beat. You can actually go rock hunting on the southern border now. And find something besides, like rape trees. It's kind of interesting, man. And all it took was a change of presidents. Who would have thought? Little sip of liquid enthusiasm to wet the whistle, man. Starting to have the mouth dry out. Look at this, brother Ryan on board early. Wonder if that's what they thought during the eating. Yeah, you gotta wonder, right? I can always count on you, Ryan. I'm glad you're here, brother. God bless. There's Carrie. I knew she was lurking in the background somewhere. And yes, as Roman said, smash that like button. It pumps us up in the algorithm, whatever the hell that means. I hear that it's a good thing. I have no idea how algorithms work. Roman is the coder guy. He's the computer dude, and he can give you a thorough breakdown on it. All I know is you guys give me a thumbs up. It expands our exposure, and I am all about that. Was it the city of Bale the first one after the flood? Yes. And you can still see the huge stones today. Yes, indeed, you would be correct in that assessment, sir. I believe, that number might be low considering the seminaries are controlled by a segment of the Vatican that coerces the priests to be. Yes. Man, cool. The conversations in the comments have already started. I see you and Deacon Mark chopping it up. I'm going to let it ride, man. I'm going to let it ride. You guys do it, man. We got a couple of very scholarly folks when it comes to biblical issues, and I'm just going to let that conversation play out. 1,700 priests have something to say about corrupting children. Where's the same outrage? Just saying, oh, dude, I hope you didn't take my lack of specific mention as somehow giving a blanket pass to that. I know you didn't. I know you throw it out. You know me better than that. And I know where you're headed with it. That's the thing. If I fail to be outraged at Catholic priests for doing the horrible things that they do to kids, there are going to be millions of other people to jump in and fill that negative outrage space, right? The culture will fill in the gap, right? If I neglect to call out secular child trafficking, child sex abuse, and all that kind of stuff, it's no harm, no foul with regard to those people. So it's kind of like, sometimes it just speaks for itself. Anyway, we'll get to it all. We got plenty of time. Anyway, Brother Doug Turtle is on board. Good to see you, man. God bless you, and we need a phone call very soon. I'm going to go ahead and let the bumper music play out here. Nice little roll call. We got some of the usual suspects on board. Let me go ahead and apologize to you guys for not really being late, but the thing was I was on my prep screen, and I'm doing show prep and getting everything ready to go. And then I realized that I had neglected to specify the destinations that the program was going to be airing to. So I would imagine, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine some of you guys were just sitting out there staring at the YouTube channel going, when's it going to pop up? Or staring at the Facebook page like, when is this going to happen? Like, and I'm really glad too, because there were no comments. And I know that you guys, there's already the thing that y'all do where everybody's trying to get the gold medal for being the first one on. Which by the way is really cool. And I appreciate the support on that front. But I noticed there wasn't a single comment, and we were within like probably 10 minutes of showtime, and there wasn't a single comment. I'm like, what is going on? And I bounced over to the YouTube channel, and I bounced over to the Facebook page, and my other tabs over here. I was like, what the hell is going on? And I had neglected, they have a setting when you're getting ready to do a live stream on StreamYard. They have a setting down here. It's like, which platforms are you going to be? And I had neglected to click Facebook and YouTube. And there it was. So I guess, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about the whole thing, but that was the supposition that I was making, because typically you guys are like on and commenting early. So I guess maybe some of y'all were just staring at the YouTube screen like, hey, dude, what happened? So anyway, I'm alive and well. The feds haven't gotten to me yet, and thankfully, with Trump in office, I really don't sweat a whole lot of pressure from the feds. As opposed to what would have happened had the cackling Jezebel won the election, and then we'd all be up for hell, man. I'd be sweating my tax return right now because I'd be up for an audit. But anyway, brother Turtle on board, glad to have you here. And Josh Vargas, man, listening while mixing a record. Hey, cool, right on, guys. I like to brag on my friends, man, because I've got some really cool friends that do some really cool stuff. Josh Vargas. He's a filmmaker. He's done documentary films. He's done independent horror films. He's worked on a couple of those projects I've actually been a part of. By the way, the last one that he did, Hair Metal Shotgun Zombie Massacre, I played a gun nut survivalist sexual deviant, which was. Tremendous stretch for me as an actor. Tremendous stretch for me as an actor, and completely out of line with anything. Oh wait, no, I don't actually live behind a graveyard. So, that was a departure. So I really had to stretch for that role. But much like my other filmmaker friend Mel House, they tend to, they include me in their projects, and they essentially write parts with me in mind, and I'm always honored by that. But anyway, Josh has done some amazing things, man. In the course of the Candyman murders down in Houston, he was doing a documentary, well, not a documentary film, but it was almost a docudrama, not quite, but tells the story of the Candyman murders in Houston a long time ago, and befriended Elmer Wayne Henley. And over the course of his efforts in making that film, they actually found a Polaroid picture of one of the. It basically helped law enforcement seal the deal on a case that had been open for a long, long time, and it was a victim that was either totally unknown to them or was. I don't know the specifics of it, Josh. If you want to comment, feel free to break down exactly what had happened there. But he had access to the actual torture boards, and Dean Coral and Elmer Wayne Henley. If you guys are unfamiliar with it, you should do a little research on that. It's pretty interesting stuff. What's odd is uh, my adoptive mother used to try to. I mean, she used fear as a control mechanism my entire life, but we're not here to talk about that. But it was interesting because I did not know at the time, because early 70s. Why would I know that? I'm a child. And she basically, the boogeyman story that they would say, don't run off from me in the shopping center, because if you get lost, somebody will snatch you up and you're going to wind up like tied up to a board and everything. And the one story that she always used to try to scare me with was the thing about, they'll offer you candy, then you wind up on a torture board. I don't think she called it a torture board, but basically she was telling me about the Candyman murders. Like, Dean Coral was my childhood boogeyman, and I didn't even know it at the time, which is weird. Anyway, I like to brag on my friends, man. All of you guys are doing incredible things. Of course, I could go on about Ryan for like a long time. All the stuff that he's done in the crane and rigging industry, the father that he is to his young son. Just fantastic human being all the way around, and quite the intellect. Very, very well read. You got Turtle and the stuff that he's doing with Iron Pig Armaments. Man, I've got guys in my friend circle who just have such a broad and diverse range of skill sets and acumens and areas about which they are passionate, and it makes for a really, really dynamic interaction. I can get all that together. Ultimately, if you find your five closest friends, right, you can pretty much pretty much draw a semi-accurate picture of the kind of person he is if you look at his five closest friends. Uh, if I picked any five friends at random and they tried to do a character sketch based on that, if we ran that test five different times, we'd come to five different conclusions because everyone in my circle has their thing. It's not you you see it happen with grazers. You see it happen with the herd, that everybody watches the same sport, or everybody goes to the same movie, and everybody's like all talking about I will never, uh, thanks be to God, I will never find myself in that position, because the broad range of areas of interest among my friends just never ceases to amaze me. And when you look at a lot of the guys that I run with, if you just took a look at surface level stuff, typically the thought that popped into your mind first wouldn't be, I bet this guy is like a super intellectual. I mean, this dude, he's got Nobel laureate written all over him. Uh, you wouldn't think that just looking at a lot of my friends, until you start to speak to them. And the deeper you get into that conversation and the more you start to flesh them out as a human being, you realize my friend set is anything but normal, but they're also anything but boring. I consider myself so freaking blessed by God to have had so many fantastic men and women cross my path, and the ones that have stayed around the longest, I'm doubly blessed by them, because they're just amazing people, and they return the same level of respect, and it's just a phenomenal thing, man. I've been exceedingly blessed. Old friends. Ah, look at this, man. Wayne Sharp, all the way back from high school days. By the way, I finally heard from your brother the other day. He posted after I threw up the picture of what happened to the bicep, and we'll be getting into that here in a little bit. And of course, Jake. Hey, lovely people. Speaking of biceps, guys, take a good look down here. I'm trying to figure out how to point at that corner. Yeah, okay, because my screen is like a reverse of that. But anyway, take a look down here in this corner. That's my bro Jake, man. Look at that. He is freaking yoked right now, man. I don't know if he's on cycle. I don't know if he's off. I did look at the thing, the set that he was doing the other day for chest and tries. Looks like he's banging it out, man. And I'm jealous. I'm going to be jealous for the next couple of months, because there is no upper body work in my future. The next couple of months, we're going to get in all of that. I was looking around 3 p.m. just yeah, oh yeah. No, I'm sorry. I know, I'm thoroughly ashamed of myself. You're working what? 24-hour shift today, man. You and Ryan. That's yeah, you and Ryan definitely, bro. It's if it were possible for either of you to work 36 hours in a day, you would be putting it out there. There's brother Tom showing up from the Seattle area. He's got Stubbers and Stabbers, another Stubbers and Stabbers class coming up soon for all you guys who have said, hey man, we can't get down to Texas to train with your guys down there. We're up here in the Northwest. There is a dearth of tactical. Well, there is no longer a dearth of tactical training in the Northwest. You got Tom Hollyby up there. Check him out online, Ashigaru Defense. He is the working man's Musashi. He's gonna break down the entire enormity of your life and tactical training into the Book of Five Rings condensed version. It's gonna be fantastic for you. But I've seen the guy work. His skill set is totally 100% legit, And hopefully, one of these days, I will actually not be on a crane job somewhere far away, and I'll actually be able to get one of his classes in. But if you're not me, and you're not, and you're in the Northwest, that Stubbers and Stabbers class is coming up. So look up Oshaguro Defense and get into that class, Stubbers and Stabbers. Stubbers, obviously, pow, 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 pistols, and Stabbers speaks for itself. So you're in for that. Albert Fish was the original boogeyman. Yeah, he was, but he was a little before my time. Uh, for you guys that are unfamiliar with Albert Fish, you know what? It's a rant for another day, but you guys should look it up. But my favorite part of that entire episode, my two favorite parts of that entire episode with Albert Fish is one, when he sent the letter, he basically kidnapped a woman's child and killed her and ate her, and then sent a letter to the mother wanting to establish a correspondence with her. And he this is as twisted as it gets. He sent the letter, and the letter was prefaced, "Your daughter died a virgin, Mrs. Budd," right? Kidnapped little Katie Budd, killed her, chopped her up, butchered her, ate her as part of a stew, and just wanted to comfort the mother and just be like, "Yeah, I killed her, I ate her, but I didn't diddle her private parts before it." This is There are people like that just walking around in the world, and apparently now I have set up. Apparently now I've set up an entire conversation over here in the comments on serial killers. I'm just an old geezer. Your bicep didn't get wounded; it kicked its own ass. Yeah, Josh, that's it's a strange thing, but we're gonna tell the whole story here in a little bit. And finally, last guy on the roll call, David made it out. Glad to see you, brother. Glad to see you. All right, so let's get a couple sponsor shout outs out of the way real quick. First of all, of course, first and foremost, as always, my dear friend Roman, one of my oldest and dearest friends over at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. He's doing beautiful watercolor work of beautiful naked women, and he's got testosterone driven commentary rolling over there too on Planet Bart. That is a trifecta. It's two great tastes that taste great together. It's fantastic. In any case, check him out at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. He's got books out now. He's doing the short fiction stuff, and it's all under Roman Riva on Amazon. Check out Roman Freely. It's a collection of his watercolor work, and he's got the short fiction stuff rolling now as well. So you definitely want to check him out. And of course, my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. Period. Understatement. Done. This is a hill that I'm willing to die on. All of you guys over here in the comments that have been to the Northwest, you already know. And anybody that comes up there for a visit, we're going to throw down on some Nordic smoke, and it's going to be fantastic. Dusty is running the smoker now. Casey has moved on to bigger things. He is past the bar. He's a practicing attorney now. Just had a little chat with him over text just the other day after we saw the pictures of the injury. And man, just a fantastic human being. But he has a book out as well. It's called Freaks of a Feather. It's published by Latah Press out of Spokane, Washington, and it's available on Amazon. It is a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. That's all the preface that I need to give it. He's a phenomenally gifted writer, and all of these guys over here in the comments who have read the book, they will attest to that. So definitely throw some money at the people who are taking care of me, taking care of the program, and for all of you who contribute to the digital collection plate every week when I pass it around, thank you. I appreciate the generosity. This essentially is, or has been, could be a labor of love. From the early days on, and I am currently working a crane gig. There are times that I'm not working, and this is just the way that it goes. But just know, man, you guys, when I pass that digital collection plate around at the end of the sermon every Sunday, you guys that throw in, I love y'all, and I really, really appreciate it. So as long as you're taking care of me, take care of the folks that are taking care of the program, and that includes Roman, and that includes my Viking brothers if you're up in the Spokane area, and that includes, of course, Tom. If you are in Washington or anywhere in the Northwest, if it's easier for you to make it close to see me than it is to bounce down to Texas, well, now we got Brother Tom up there, and he's doing classes. So check him out. Again, building community here. from the very first part of the opener. Let me go back here and just pull this up. Assemble yourselves and come. Draw near together, ye that are escaped of nations. They have no knowledge that set up the wood of their graven image and pray unto a God that cannot save. Independent of the faith-centered assertions that we're making here, assemble yourselves and come, draw near together, ye that are escaped of the nations. When you are building a community, you are building a community of like minds and kindred spirits. And nothing could be more vital and important in this day and age. Not all of us here, not this whole circle of friends, are people of faith, right? But what we are people who have set ourselves apart in one way or another from the herd. We are of a different mind than the way that the herd is headed. And as such, we have to learn to look out for it. You've got to look out for yourself. If you're no good to yourself, you're not going to be any good for anyone else. But independent of that, once you have that community established, you've got to take care of each other, right? Tribe would be probably the most historically accurate way to put it. I remember going to see Timothy Leary back in 91, I think it was. I believe it was 1991 at University of Houston. And I went and saw Timothy Leary, and he was placing great importance on the nature of tribe and how tribal cohesion was understood versus how tribal cohesion actually manifests. And I just remember being so thoroughly rocked by his presentation. But yeah, historically, nothing bigger than tribe has ever really, really, really been able to hold together over the long term. Okay. Granted, Northern Europeans and North Asians have had better luck with regard to the sustainability of their civilizations. The Chinese have made it last for thousands of years. You know, the essence of the West, the true nature of it. Of course, Europeans battling back and forth and beating each other over the head with clubs, and now lobbing bullets at each other over the course of the better part of the 20th century. We have been more destructive to ourselves than any outside power could have been. But what the cohesive element is for the North Asians and for the Northern Europeans is the cohesion at that tribal level, first and foremost. The in-group, out-group thing that is actively derided and actively excoriated by modern thinking. It's just, oh man, why are you going to be so tribal about everything? Because that's the way we're wired, man. That's the way we're wired, right down to our DNA, like it or not. But anyway, we got to function on that tribal level because the largest civilizations can, will, and by many appearances are falling apart right now. It's entirely possible that civilization as we know it may be 2 generations away from complete extinction unless we really, really, really pull it together right now. And the only way that we are going to be able to pull it together right now to save it on a civilization level is to save it on a tribal level. We have to remember who we are at the core. We have to remember the blood that courses through our veins. We have to remember our collective cultural history, our shared collective cultural history. And we have to be ready to stand up for that, unashamed and unequivocal. We have to be able to stand and say no. We have to be able to stand in the face of those who seek, because all of the people who seek to destroy that. And we could say we can only say this right now for the Europeans because there's not a big global push to destroy the Chinese, is there? In fact, quite the contrary. The Chinese Communist Party is the single focal point and most powerful asset of the globalist organizing motive. All right. They would love to see the model of Chinese communism expanded to a global level, right? We are the only ones who are actively being crushed, and all the outside groups that are trying to crush us on a tribal level, on a cultural level, on a racial level, which is something that people are afraid to get into honest discussions about, they all have that cohesion, right? They have their own cultural self-interest and self-defense and self-determination. They hold on that level, and they are encouraged and cheered on to that. And you know what? On a level of pure principle, I cheer that on, because every bloodline, every race, every civilization, every culture should be entitled to that. However, the courtesy is not returned. Okay, so we got to pull it together, boys and girls. We have got to pull it together. We have got to be able to stand without fear, or we're going to kneel without agency. Stand without fear, or kneel without agency. That's essentially the two choices that we have. None of these things were particularly related to anything. So, but but yeah, we have got to pull these things together, folks, and we have got to be unashamed and stand in the face of those who seek to mislabel and misrepresent. We have to be able to stand in the face of those who will call it one thing, masking something else with regard to intent. The fundamental tenets of Western civilization have given us the modern world. We abandon those at our own extreme peril. Okay? There's no need to hate anything. No need to hate anything, right? The one place where the hippies, unbeknownst to themselves, got it right is, yeah, love is the powerful motivator. Love is the powerful motivator. But you you have to fully embrace that love, right? You have to be able to profess that love and not be apologetic about it. You have to be able to profess that love for one's own culture and not be ashamed of it. You have to be able to call things what they are. It's a very unpopular thing in this day and age. Very unpopular thing. And more's the pity. So let's get off into this thing, shall we? Happy Palm Sunday to everyone who is gathered here. This is where we commemorate the carpenter's ride into Jerusalem. And you look at the gospel according to Mark, and he sent out for a colt. He basically said, look, go down 2 blocks, hang a left. There's going to be a colt tied to a post. Go get him. And if anyone asks you what you're doing, tell them that the Lord requires it, and I'm going to send it right back. And down the hall to the left, they find a donkey, and they unhinge it. So people, hey, why are you untying the donkey? The Lord requires it. We'll be right back. And it basically worked like a Jedi mind trick, right? The disciples basically were like, we need the donkey for a minute. We'll bring it right back. And the guys that owned the donkey were like, you need the donkey for a minute. You'll bring it right back. And they, came back, and they gave it to our Lord. And they threw some cloaks over it for lack of a saddle, and he jumps on the back of the burro, and he rides into Jerusalem. And the crowd adored him. The crowd adored him. They rejoiced. This was their savior. This was the one who was going to bring down the Romans. This was their king. This was the one who had been prophesied. This was the one who was going to deliver them, right? He shows up on a donkey. They were a little puzzled by that. They were expecting the triumphant warrior return king, kicking ass and taking names and all these other things. That was what their will demanded in a deliverer. And this wasn't what the boss man had ordained for that moment, right? So he rides into Jerusalem on the back of the donkey, and they loved him. They praised him. They shouted their adoration. They strewed the road with palm leaves to welcome his arrival. And they, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. You have come to deliver us. And as I said in the opening, less than a week later, guys, we're talking about just days later, this entire mob was following him through the streets as he was scourged and bleeding. and carrying a crucifix they would ultimately be nailed to. Crucify him, right? This is how fickle the mob is when their needs are not delivered to, right? Um, should we say anything about Balaam while we're here, Ryan? Should we say anything about Balaam? Right? Because these guys, if I, Ryan, you and I both know, if I were to throw that out right now, they'd be getting they'd be getting their, donkey myths confused, right? Now, wait a minute, is that the one? Is that the one where the donkey stopped because the angel appeared to him? Or we were like, no, 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 no. That's right. That's a different. No, sorry, it's different. In fact, a whole different testament. So, um, right. Uh, in any case, that is the fickleness of the mob, right? You have to understand that these, and don't, you can't hate on them for it, right? You can't hate on them for it. If you're truly walking in the faith, you got to embrace the forgiveness of that, right? Um, Christ did it right up until the moment of his death. Even as the Romans stood at the base of that cross, putting spears in his side, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, right? But we as humans, we can forgive, right? We can definitely forgive. We're admonished to forgive, but that doesn't mean that you roll over and play dead for it. You recognize it for what it is and never put your fate in the hands of a mob. Never put your well-being of yourself or the people that you care about in the hands of a mob, because it'll turn, man. It'll turn on a freaking dime. And as as the carpenter told us, don't be bothered, because if the world hates you, it's because it hated me first. They hated him then. A lot of them hate him now. Uh, it's just the nature of things, man. It's just the nature of things, and you evolve and you adapt. So let's get off into this thing. What happened to me Tuesday? This was bizarre. And again, people can take from this whatever they want to take from it. They can say to themselves, Bart's totally lost it. Bart's gone off the deep end. What the hell's going on with this dude? He's talking about demons and things like that. I will not say uh, a donkey God in both instances, relative, sir. Okay, conceded. I will not say that there isn't a perfectly rational explanation for what happened to me Tuesday. I won't say that medically it was predicated on yada yada yada. All that I know is I will tell you exactly how it happened to me in the moment. Approximately 1:37 uh, Tuesday morning, I awoke with my arms outstretched in front of me like this. I was having a really, really graphic nightmare of grappling with a demon. Charlie is here. I saw her momentarily. She was here. I don't know if she's still here, but Charlie, if you do still happen to be here, uh, please, if you would be so kind as to share your testimony. She has seen me with some nightmares, man. I got a lot of stuff. I'm PTSD is PTSD is real. I got a lot of stuff that still haunts me, man. I got a lot of stuff that and the nightmares can be pretty horrible, and they're pretty graphic, and the physical reaction to some of those nightmares can be pretty heavy. You're asking, if you were to, again, Charlie, if you're still here, feel free to jump in. But if you're going to ask the woman that sleeps next to me, um, how I react to this kind of stuff. It can get pretty thrashing about, violent, hellish. So I was having this nightmare, and I awoke again about 1:37 ish. It seems to be the moment that comes when I remember looking over at the clock, but my arms were stretched out in front of me like this, and I was and suddenly it occurred to me that I've got this massive pain over here. And first thought was a heart attack, and then I went, no, heart attack is left side. All right, cool. Um, and I reached over and and I had very, very limited range of motion over here. And I tried to contract my bicep and I couldn't move it more than about that because the bicep felt totally contracted. The muscle itself felt like a freaking stone. If you guys have ever had like a hardcore workout and you got that pumped where it feels like the muscle's just going to split right through your skin. Um, yeah, Roger. Rod, first of all, I'm glad you're here. And yeah, the closer you are to God, the more you'll be attacked. So I woke up, bicep felt like a freaking stone, and it was painful. I tried to get back to sleep, couldn't get back to sleep. We had some trucks that had to be unloaded, so I thought, okay, I'm at least going to go in and uh, I'm at least going to go in and give him a hand. I'm not going to leave him in the lurch. And so I went in and I talked to a super, and I was like, "Hey, man, we get these trucks unloaded. I need to get out of here about lunchtime." And he was like, "What's going?" And I was like, "Just touch this." And he touched it. He was like, "Dude, what?" I was like, "Yeah, I know. I don't know what's going on with it." There was no bruising at the time. I go to the ER. Well, actually, I went into Humboldt General Hospital here in Winnemucca, Nevada. There's the walk-in clinic, which is like an urgent care place, and then like the ER is located right next to it. I walked into urgent care and I showed them. This was slightly afternoon. By that point, it had begun to bruise a little bit, and I said, "Hey, man, what's going on? I tore a muscle or tendon, whatever." They were like, "We can't do anything for you. We just send you over to the ER." They send me over to the ER. ER does ultrasound first, and they show me the bicep is torn across three different planes, right? And they asked me, I said, "Well, what were you lifting?" And I said, "I was asleep." And they were like, "No, okay, yeah, okay, you were asleep. Like, what did you do at the gym before?" I was like, "Dude, I haven't." And true story, I had not done back and biceps. I'm not proud of this, but I had not done back and biceps in 2 weeks previous to that. Nothing. So there was no flexor work, no rows, no curls, nothing. Um, And they said, "So you were just sleeping and it woke up, you know." And I was very honest with them about everything. I was like, "Look, guys, I have been on anabolic steroids for 20 plus years. You know, everything about my use of PEDs. Everything about previous injuries, all of that." And they were like, "But just you were sleeping." I was like, "Yeah, I was. You were stone cold asleep." You guys remember the movie Tombstone after the one big shootout, right? And they're talking next to Doc Holliday by the riverside. It's like, "Man, you ever see anything like that?" Seen, man, I ain't ever even heard of nothing like that. That's how the doctors reacted. They were just like, "What's going on?" Now, again, say whatever you want. I'm just telling you how I perceive the incident. Do I believe? If you're asking me if I believe it was a demonic attack, yes, yes. And I'll throw that out there. Yes, I absolutely believe it was a demonic attack. You can say it makes me a nut job. You can say that I'm reaching. Okay, cool, man. Whatever. Believe what you want. How many of you guys? This would be the time to. Yeah, yeah. Caught me in a bicep slicer, right? um, how many of you guys out here? True confession time. Don't feel obligated here, but I'm going to open the floor because generally, when I speak to any group of people, there are more than a few that have experienced sleep paralysis. You guys familiar with sleep paralysis, right? Any of you had experiences with that where you are wide awake, um, and you can't move. You are absolutely paralyzed, and you are aware of other entities around you. What the If you look it up, right? Like if we just do a quick search for sleep paralysis, we just do like a quick search, and what it's going to pull up, they will define it as temporary inability to move or speak when falling asleep or waking up. It's a common experience, often associated with vivid and frightening hallucinations. Um, when I talk to any group of people, generally they have float at the end of my. Yep, there we go. I knew there'd be at least one. I knew there'd be at least one. Yeah, right. Right. Thank you. Yeah, Jacob wrestling angels. I'm wrestling demons, Ryan. Yeah, yeah, totally, man. I get it. Floating at the foot of the bed. Emmy, yes. Roman, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, Roman commenting on Jay. Yeah, yeah. Emmy, this is this is a thing, people, and it's a cultural phenomenon. Now you have the David Icke guys that are like it's alien abduction, and they freeze time, and they come in and put probes in your butt or whatever. Um, good save there, bro. Good save there. Yeah, yeah. And Jake, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And Charlie, if you're still here, you need now would be the time to chime in. Um, if Again, you got the David Icke guys that say it's alien abduction, they're freezing time and everything, but a number of spiritual paths hold that when these things happen, that it's demons, it's a demonic attack. Uh, Jake speaking right here, I've had them hold me down where I couldn't even scream, and finally, when I said Yahweh help me, they fled. Yes, yes. And again, I was hoping Charlie was still going to be here to chime in because I awoke from a really really terrible nightmare and was having elements of sleep paralysis. Was aware of demonic presences in the room, and it's the first time that I'd ever done that. And I had been back in the faith for some time at this point, but it's the first time I called on the name of Christ to get rid of these. And I, you know, get thee gone. I rebuke thee in the name of Christ. I rebuke thee in the name of Christ. And I came out of my sleep screaming that and thrashing around. But they bailed, bro. They bailed like immediately. I remember when I first called the name of God before they took off, and all of a sudden the big, that's like up and just you saw that moment where like I could actually perceive the moment where he went from keep putting the game face on to he sees through me, and he knew that I knew. And I just remember, when I called on the name of the Lord, that was, you know, he's, oh wow, the game. And all of a sudden he's got no strength. All of a sudden he's got no strength. I had not gotten to that point Tuesday. I was still actively, like wrestling. And again, woke up with a bicep torn across 3 different planes with no. So again, you can think about that whatever you want, but I'm just letting you know how I perceived it and what I believe about it. Okay. Uh, there are people here that don't share the faith. There are people here that do share the faith, but aren't willing to go to that level of physical manifestations of demonic entities and spiritual warfare. But there are more than enough accounts. Even before the sleep paralysis thing is something that I've wrestled with my entire life, ever since I was a child. And even when I was in the church in my youth, I would tell people about these nightmares where I couldn't move and everything, but nobody in the church at the time, keep in mind, different denominations at different times of my childhood, but nobody ever said it's demons. Nobody ever came to me like, and, I talked to people in the church about it, and nobody ever pulled me to the side and went, look, this is the thing. These are demons and they are attacking you in your dreams because they can't, they're coming at you physically because, you walk with Christ, you're under the divine protection of Christ, you call on the name of Christ and you're going to be protected. And nobody ever bothered to tell me that, nobody. That was something that I didn't come to until, my adult life and my return to the faith. And suffice it to say that it works, or at least it has worked for me. I would imagine it probably would have worked Tuesday night if I had gotten around to it, but I was still actively in my head, in my nightmare, was still actively wrestling with this thing. And I came out of it. I came out of it and I had a torn bicep. What is that, Brian? Oh, first of all, Brian, glad you're here. Um, good observation, Ryan. Very clever. I like what you did there. Brian, glad you made it. Highly recommended the Jesus prayer. If you're familiar with it, short and very powerful. Amen and amen. George, glad you made it out too. Hey, everyone, sure stop over to say hi. Have to catch the replay. I will tell you later about my fight with demons later. God bless. God bless you, George, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Drop me a personal message over on my inbox on Facebook if you get a chance. Jake, again, I've seen the floating man. So the kids swear to God have been under attack, bro. I get it. I get it. I've studied demonology as a result of these attacks and have discovered a lot. And slowly but surely, I'm getting there, Jake. Slowly but surely, I'm getting there because this is a thing. There's a reluctance. Emmy, I have very hard time sleeping without noise with a dog at my feet. Yes. Deacon Mark has several events like the others. We have a merciful God that keeps us from seeing the other side that happens on the daily. And I'm glad that um, uh, I'm glad that momentarily lost my train of thought. I'm glad you brought that up because again, people who don't, people who aren't of faith at all, they'll dismiss it out of hand. These are the same people that will embrace astrology as if it were, like the gospel truth and infallible. So, weigh the opinions however you're going to weigh it. Ultimately, it comes down to how you perceive it and what you believe about it. But yes, I am of the opinion that they're around us, right? Constantly, like every day in our waking moment. They're not visible to us generally, right? Some of us have had visions where they do manifest physically or what appears to be physically in front of us in our day-to-day life. Some people have a gift where they can see it like going on around them all of the time. God has given that gift to a number of people. I believe that we are constantly aware of these demons. I believe that a lot of stuff that is diagnosed as mental illness is actually demonic, right? Now, straight, normal grazer folk, educated folk would tell me point blank, you're out of your mind. You don't know what you're talking about. You really need to shut up. You're misleading people. I do not profess to be an expert. I am just telling you what I experience and what I believe. You can choose to do with that whatever you wish. Um, Chantal is a wonderful, godly wife. Chantal is a wonderful, godly wife, and she periodically gets attacked while she sleeps. She's not crazy, and I believe that happens to her. Bro, I totally agree. Totally agree. And now I've known that sleep paralysis was like a real thing that I could not explain. I've known that my entire life. I've experienced it my whole life. And now looking at it through the lens of the spirit, it makes sense that this is demonic entities that are at play right here. Even when I was true, I did a little digging into the David Icke stuff of like alien abduction, and it's like, yeah, okay, all right, whatever. Sure, okay, cool. If that's how you choose to believe it, if you believe that grays with big almond eyes are putting things in your butt, then legit, bro. I didn't realize it was that kind of party, or I'd have brought lube, but I'm telling you, these entities are there. And even some mainstream folk are feeling more and more okay with talking about it now as part of the cultural shift that's going on right now, where people are coming back to the faith, where people are embracing the faith, and where um, people are coming back to church. People are buying Bibles or digging up old Bibles that have been stuck away in a drawer somewhere. And the cultural shift that we're seeing, not just in the United States, but in the UK and all over Europe and all over the world. Yeah, yeah, I've been there with DMT, and this is something as well. And Ryan, I know you bringing that up I know you bring that up to derail me because that's what you do, but he brings up an important thing. If you guys have ever done DMT, suddenly I'm going Joe Rogan on everybody. You ever done DMT? You ever done DMT? Um, you will become painfully aware of the stuff that is around you, and it's constantly around you. Keep in mind, we have five senses. Some would say five and a half, six. We have five. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, okay. In that case, you're definitely on point. I thought you were, um, yeah, yeah, definitely worth looking into. And that's another topic that raises another topic, Ryan, with regard to psychedelics. There are a lot of people in the church who say, Rod Dreher, who, Live Not by Lies, Rod Dreher, the Substack that I'm always recommending. The guy's a phenomenal author. By the way, Live Not by Lies is now streaming on Angel Studios. If you guys have got Angel Studios streaming, you should definitely check that out. Rod Dreher is Orthodox. He's a historian. He's a man of faith, and he's a phenomenal writer. But Live Not by Lies is now on Angel Studios streaming. He has discussed some with regard to psychedelics and being part of the recognition of demons, and how sometimes the psychedelic experience will open doors, for demons to get in. And true enough, I mean, I have done quite a bit of psychedelic experimentation. Um, I would consider myself a fairly experienced and devout psychonaut when it comes to those explorations, man. And I fully appreciate what they are talking about. Yeah, I had heard DMT and ketamine are great for PTSD. Microdosing, heal my brain. Thankful Jason Friedman got me hooked up. Well, Ryan, you remember I was microdosing there for a while, and it did me a world of good. In fact, with some of the things that I've got going on in my personal life right now, that may be something worth revisiting. Um, Psychedelics can open doors, man, and this is a thing for a lot of people. I am not of the of the Timothy Leary school in a lot of ways on psychedelics, but I'm not of his opinion where everybody should trip, man. You have people that are opening doors for entities that they're not capable of wrestling with, right? You have people who ordinarily, again, I'm just speaking with regard to my experiences and my opinions about what is going on. You have people who are opening themselves up to these entities that they can't manage, these demons that they normally would have been insulated from for whatever reason, whether they're in the faith or out. They would have been insulated from these things, and they take the psychedelics and it opens these portals. What did Huxley call it? Huxley called it the doors of perception, right? Those doors aren't just for perception, right? You are opening doors to other potentially dimensions. You are opening doors to entities from outside your mainstream perception reality construct, and some of these could be demonic. Again, I happen to believe that they're demonic. Your mileage may vary. You can call it whatever you want to. Maybe you're still waiting for the aliens to come along and put something in your butt. I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just saying you got to be careful with this kind of stuff. And yes, Ryan, I complete. Yeah, true story. Yes, you did. Um, you had better embrace the experience, and you had better be using guides, and you had better be using responsible dosages, and you had better be aware before you go into the experience, because you may come out with something riding piggyback that you didn't expect. Ryan, first time on DMT, did you get the elves or the bugs? Pure curiosity question. Did you get the elves or the bugs? Because generally speaking, it comes down to elves or bugs. I got elves, but these are entities, man. These are entities outside of our normal everyday perception. And again, when you were talking to a grazer or someone who was uninitiated, you come off like a raven effing lunatic behind this stuff, right? I cannot attest to, I don't know if you guys can really see that. I think the light is not really doing it justice, but you saw in the photos that I posted earlier in the week the extent of the bruising, and the bruising is finally starting to alleviate, thankfully, but I've still got a very limited range of motion. And I have been placed under strict orders: do not jack with anything that is going to upset that balance, because right now the tendon's held. Okay, for those of you who are interested, and dude, could you get off the demon stuff for a minute and just tell us what's going on medically? The tendon held, right? I was terribly afraid that the tendon had ripped. I was terribly afraid of that, because it's that's surgery, period. If the muscle had torn completely, instead of this way, and this way. If it had torn completely through, there's no fixing it. It's not even worth attempting a reconstruction because you're basically stitching hamburger to hamburger. It's pointless. It held. God is my witness. I am not going to do anything voluntarily to exacerbate that. I am going to protect the heck out of it and I'm going to protect the hell out of it and not do anything that could even potentially run that risk. And that's a 2 month period. That's a 2 month period of no upper body work at all. None. I can't risk it. I cannot risk it because I've got to be ready. You guys remember in 2020, the summer of love when they were setting cities on fire, and I was terrified that it was going to be coming to the inflection point, and I was going to have to fight these Antifa maggots with. You remember, guys, that was before my hip replacement. Hip was bone on bone. Lumbar spine was totally jacked. I could barely walk. I finished crane school on a cane. Like all of these things. I can't risk it, man. I cannot risk it. So I've got to completely retool everything now. Another physical manifestation of how the adversary is coming at me on a spiritual level. But like a lot of people say, if you are taking flack, that means that you are over the target. What is that? I got ego deaths. I had a babysitter was able to get 5 good hits, completely life altering. Right on. Right on, man. I'm telling you, there's a lot to be said for psychedelics. Jake, my mother went to Joe's Woods. Brother Adam had a nightmare about demons tying him up and drowning him, and we woke up my mom. They went to the living room, all Bible study. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what was that? No, sir, it's not how you perceive it. It is or is not. It's the one thing or the other. Okay, well, and I understand that. I understand that. My boxing coach was into astral travel. Astral travel and astral projection that can get into some dangerous areas as well. Because here's the thing: there are no experts on this. Okay, there are no experts on this. We have experts on how your perception is going to be affected. You have the Terence McKennas of the world. You have the Timothy Learys of the world. You have the Aldous Huxleys of the world. But nobody is an expert on what's really going on. Nobody. It's literally impossible to put a nail in there and say this is demonic. These are demons. These are aliens. These are multidimensional. Whatever. We don't know. Collectively, we don't know. So that's why I'm specifying about what I believe, right? And I do believe it absolutely without equivocation. I 100% believe it. If you were asking me whether it is or is not, it absolutely is, right? But I can't make that assignment for everybody else. I leave them to it. That's between them and the boss man. That's between them and the carpenter. I'm not even. Yeah. Yeah, you remember. Yeah, you saw me after that in Austin. It was San Marcos, bro. You came out to see me in San Marcos. I was staying with Charlie, and I was still really jacked up. I think it was still on a cane at the time. Yeah, I was blasted, man. It was bad shape. Now you imagine, uh, Jake, if I would have had to physically fight even a moderately built dude, let alone 5, Antifa maggots swinging riot batons or what the hell ever. Imagine me trying to have to scrap with that with those kind of injuries. You know, I have to rehab this. I have to get things straightened out. And no matter what, all of it comes down to whose will, whose will, thy will, not mine, be done. There's a lesson I'm supposed to take from this, right? Um, Lesson number 1 could be, dude, these demons are for real. You know, don't be playing around. Lesson number 2 could be, you need to modify your physical regimen, right? And I couldn't get you to do it any other way, so I allowed this to happen. Well, a loving God wouldn't allow. I got one word for you, buddy. Job. Conversation over. Uh, it would allow something like this to happen to retool where I was at and adjust how I'm carrying things physically. In line with some other things I got going on in my life right now, there are going to have to be a lot of adjustments, and that's fine. His will, his ways. It's above my pay grade. I'm just here to serve. That's it. And a lot of people would still, what is that? Yeah, but you're mean. You'd bite and chew and stuff. And Roman, yeah, I'd still put 100 on board. Maybe, man. It's nice to be so well thought of. Major Ed Danes. I do actually, Ryan. I do remember some adjustments are going to have to be made, and so I'm kicking back and I'm waiting for instructions. Here's what I will tell you guys, man. Everything that is going on in the culture right now. And this is what I believe, man. It's what I believe. Your mileage may vary. A lot of what passes for mental illness and mental issues is demonic. Demonic possession. I will say it. I don't care if that makes me crazy. I don't care if people who were barely giving me the time of day to begin with. I don't care if it's short dicks every cannibal on the Congo and hair lips every hillbilly on Buck Creek. I don't care. I'm going to say it. A lot of stuff. There you are, right? Where were you when I was talking about the night? Did you just like dip out for a minute, Charlie? Did you like dip out? Because I needed somebody here to testify for the nightmares, you know. But anyway, I mean, if you were busy, you were busy. But now would be a good time. Feel free. If you're here, you can jump into the comments. I was discussing with all of the folks who were gathered here the nature of the nightmares and how you were present for the one where I came out rebuking that particular demon in the name of Christ. And I was like, waiting for you to jump back and use a little extra testimony here, but okay, you're here and feel free. Anyhow, a lot of what we chalk up, a lot of what we chalk up to mental illness, I do believe is demonic. A lot of the things that we chalk up to cultural decline is demonic. A lot of the ways that we see all of these things falling apart is demonic, right? And it used to be something you would dip your toe in the pond. And, I could go all the way back to the 60s, man. Some of Alice Cooper's early stuff was done for shock value. You got Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Which, by the way, if you have not seen Arthur Brown Fire, right, you should YouTube that as soon as you can. The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, and the name of the song is Fire. Okay, Manson owes him royalties. All of the shock bands, all of the big bands, Slayer owes him royalties. Any of the guys, right? You'll giggle, right? Because it's so campy by today's standards. But you look at the guy, and I'm looking at him going, number one, you are definitely dancing with Anton LaVey and that bunch. I know what you're doing in your spare time, but it's definitely an influence. Watch them. Yes. Thank you, Deacon Mark. Watch the movie Nefarious. Ridiculously good. Absolutely, man. Nefarious lays it out, man. It absolutely lays it out. A lot of the stuff that is going on in the culture, people would dabble in it. People would pay lip service to it. Marilyn Manson did the whole Antichrist superstar thing, and bands that some of the metal bands. I mean, come on, Slayer, right? Like even Slayer. But even with regard to Slayer, man, it wasn't a celebration, was it? If you're listening to Rain and Blood, right, you knew that this was like dark, spooky energy. That if you want to keep some light in your life, you might want to lean away, kind of stuff. You listen to Rain and Blood or Angel of Death or any of that stuff, you still knew that what you were dealing with was dark. Now it's bled over into pop, right? What is that? What is that mincing little fat bastard that did the thing on? It was either the Grammys or the MTV Awards where he came out in the big satanic suit with the devil horns and telling everybody we're all here to worship. These are like the bubblegum pop guys that like teenage kids gravitate to, and they're doing this, right? What is the kid who did Old Town Road or whatever it was? The black guy that did the country song. Old Town Road or whatever, and then that hit where he did the video where he's actually going down on Lucifer, right? Where he's actually getting butt plowed by the devil, right? Now, this is a guy who's held up as somebody that like teenagers would ordinarily be listening to. This is top 40 countdown stuff. And it's it's just it's so edgy. It's like, bro. Now, I'm not going to get all PMRC on these people. You know how I feel about censorship. I would never stand for it, right? But we got to be able to, on our end, we got to be able to call out what we're seeing, right? And we can't allow ourselves to be gaslit. What is it? Little Nas X. Thank you. And Sam Shepard. Yeah, Sam Shepard was the fat little Minton boy that I was talking about, and I don't even remember what the name of the song was. And then you got Little Nas X that came out and did the I can't believe it. Emmy. The only reason I know better than half of this was the amount of time I spent DJing in the strip clubs. Otherwise I never would have heard of half of this place. The Devil's Children from the 1700s and a masterpiece. Yes, yes. And you also remember Niccolo Paganini, right? Niccolo Paganini was actually banned from playing in a number of royal courts in Europe for use of the harmonic minor scale, Diablos in Musica. It was the devil's scale, right? And he played he was quite the virtuoso, quite technically proficient, 64th notes. He was like the Yngwie Malmsteen of his day on a violin, and there were a lot of assertions that he had sold his soul to the devil. Whether he had or hadn't, the point that I'm getting around to is, oh my goodness, Emmy, you're kidding. Sabaton releasing a song about the Templars on the 25th. I cannot wait. That's going to be outstanding. What is? Sorry, I had to dip out. Help with a friend's task. Everyone, I can attest wholeheartedly to the incredibly shaken brains about every last one of his night horror. Yeah, I would imagine. What is that? Roman, I knew if anybody would know, you would. Paganini didn't get a Christian burial for decades, and his family fought for decades to get him a proper burial. Yeah, Ryan, of course. Yes, sir. Robert Johnson, absolutely. All of this stuff, man. All of this stuff. But we're all making it up, right? We're all crazy. We're all just a bunch of Jesus freaks, and we don't, I can't wait till, and all of this. It's, I don't have a problem calling it what it is. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit ashamed of myself for not coming to the realization a little bit quicker. In my defense, the 80s were a very, very different time. I'm still not an advocate. I would never be one to advocate for, say, the censorship of Little Nas X, But if we can't call that what it is, right? You're doing a video where you're getting butt plowed by Satan himself, and then you're putting human blood in the dye for your shoes. I remember Kiss did that. You remember Kiss did the comic books back in, I think it was 77, where they did the Kiss comic books with Marvel, and they actually allegedly put some of their own blood into the ink. The first batch of ink that they used to print the first edition copies was, their blood. They put their blood in it. It's like, ooh, spooky and edgy and stuff. Again, that is the difference. Even then, you knew it was something dark. You knew that there were some negative connotations to it. You understood that this is not something to be sought out, and if at all possible, something to be avoided. Unless you were really, really embracing the dark side, you kind of want to lean out, right? You kind of want to slip that. You kind of want to slip that jab a little bit. But now, man, these are, man, teenage kids. Dude, the video. I'm watching a guy simulate getting sodomized by the Dark Lord of Hell. But it's catchy. It's fun to dance to. Bro, who are we Who are we to not call that out? First of all, for the Christians, that's an obvious question. For the people of faith here, that's an obvious question. How do we look at that and go, bro, there's a problem? How do we not call that out? But anybody with a moral compass should at least feel something here to go, bro, was that really necessary? I'll tell you one of the times when the tide turned for me, I told you, man, Carpenter was speaking to me and I was hearing for a lot longer than I was listening. I can remember one of the moments where I heard him, but I wasn't listening yet, as far back as like 2008, 2009. It's precisely the same time I stopped watching Family Guy. And Charlie, thank you for experienced sleep paralysis in my life. I've experienced night terrors. I have not, however, awakened like heart ready to eviscerate and rebuke some demon. Well, thank you for your moral support, hon, and it's certainly appreciated. God bless you, and I love you. Yeah. No darker than a group of nuns worshiping Jesus foreskin. Let's be real. And bro, I'll call that out as well. You know damn well I will call that out for sure. But all of this stuff, we got a responsibility, bro. We got a responsibility. The Family Guy thing. Yeah, let me finish that up real quick. Where they're doing the thing, and it's basically pedophile scat munching, right? You had Stewie and what's the dog? I can't remember, but Stewie messes his diaper, and the dog winds up. We can't leave the mess laying around, so the dog winds up eating feces, eating Stewie's feces out of this dirty diaper. And everybody's like, dude, no. I don't know how you think that that's. I don't know how you think that's funny. I mean, maybe for me, the scat thing has always been a hard line, but whatever, man. This is like pedophile scat munching, and you're throwing it out there like this is family entertainment. We got a problem. Oh, Bart, you're just old. You don't get it anymore. Yeah, okay, cool, fine. I will throw this out. I don't care how it characterizes me. I don't care how other people perceive me. I'm saying that even if you're not a man of faith, you got to be willing to call this out. These demons, right? These entities, these energies, these manifestations, however you choose to define it or encapsulate it or put it in a box, they got to be called out, man. They got to be called out because this is going on around us 24 hours a day. Each individual is fighting their own battle with their own demons, figuratively speaking, but maybe it's not so figurative. Maybe a lot of the things that are going on culturally, again, as I said in the opening, the only way that a lot of the stuff we're seeing going on in the world right now makes any sense whatsoever is within the lens of spiritual warfare. That you have a light side and a dark side, and the minions and servants of that dark side realize that their window of opportunity is closing. And guess what? They read the book as well. They know how this ends. They know that woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast in a cloud of wrath because he knows his time is short. We've got a very limited opportunity. And the only way that they can hurt God is by hurting his children. So what would make more sense than for them to come in every sense of the word and particularly the children part of children? All the things that we're seeing leveraged against our youngest and most vulnerable right now. How does that make any sense if we're not going to put it through that lens? That was the tipping point for me, man. That was the tipping point for me. It was the kids. I won't say that I think whatever demons plague Bart at night, but I have developed an odd appreciation for being present during the night terrors. Okay, They have honed my response time far better than any combative training I've ever taken, and I've taken a lot. Because apparently, when you're unconscious, you can't tell whether you're throwing that left hook at a demon or at the woman who is simply trying to calm your breathing. Yes, honey, I'm sure. And okay, in my defense, my love, in my defense, um, I'm not awake. And in our collective defense, your reflexes are pretty good, and I haven't actually made contact. So good on both of us, I guess. Getting back to the topic at hand, demons, demons working against you all the time. Sometimes they manifest in different, and I'm not trying to say that a demon is behind the guy that cuts you off in traffic. Don't feel like you're watching, what was it, Fallen, that Denzel film. Don't think that the guy that just cut you off in traffic is going to look over and like speak to you in some weird demon voice. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the cultural shift that is going on right now, this big push right now, and the harm that's being done to the kids. The child sex trafficking thing. It's another manifestation of it. Huge manifestation of it, the child sex trafficking thing. When you look at these people, even if it were incompetence, which I no longer believe, even if it were incompetence, it's inexcusable. The carpenter said something about millstones. You understand? You guys with me here? The carpenter said something about millstones. That any man who causes harm to one of these innocent children, it would be better that a millstone be hung around his neck and he be cast into the sea. So if you hear a little noise of a hammer and chisel, I'm over here working on millstones, man. Say what you want, believe what you want. I believe. I believe that we are actively engaged in spiritual warfare. And guess what? If you don't believe, cool, but you're in it too. Like the people say, I don't care about politics. Great. But politics cares about you. All of these sinister machinations of these political entities are going to affect you whether you care about them or advocate one way or not. I don't have a dog in this fight. Great. Then the fight's going to roll over you. Do you understand? Because you are neither hot nor cold, you are lukewarm, and I will spit thee from my mouth. Do you understand? There ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. There ain't no such thing as halfway Christians. You're either taking a stand on this or you're not. But if you're not walking in faith, guess what? You're still taking a stand on this or you're not. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Inappropriate time to pull a Neil Peart lyric. Doesn't matter. Choose not to decide. Choose to be that neutral party. Choose to be like, oh, I'm in the middle. I'm not taking sides. Cool, man. Cool. They're going to bowl you right over. You had better, by God, learn to stand. And if the things that are going on with children don't motivate you to some sort of visceral reaction, best that you just stand aside. I cannot countenance someone who can't be compelled to feel something when we're talking about kids. And yes, I understand, that is the way they twist up people's emotions, right? But beyond the emotional threshold of it, this is something that is hardwired into our DNA. Do you understand that? You protect the little ones. You protect the next generation. You protect the youth. You protect the innocent. You protect those who cannot protect themselves. They are the future of getting back to the tribal stuff we talked about early on in the program. This is the future of your tribe. Do you understand that? Remember we talked about the 14 words a little bit last week? They're coming for your kids. Some of your own are coming for your kids. let alone the ones outside of that tribal in-group that are coming for your kids. Do I need to point out what's going on in Britain right now with the Pakistani grooming gangs and the leaders over there enabling it? Do I need to rehash every one of those case studies that I presented over the course of a half dozen different sermons about the way 12-year-old girls were treated? There's a 12-year-old girl alone by herself, hammered drunk, and under the influence of drugs with 4 Pakistani men. Right then, any human being with 2 brain cells to rub together goes, there's something wrong here. And they pull the girl out and they get her to a safe place until we can figure out which one of these 4 gets fed foot first into the wood chipper first, because something is going on. And what did they do? They arrested the girl for public intoxication. This is an anecdote, but there are dozens of them. It was an entire scandal. And how did the UK handle it? They buried it. And anyone who calls into question how they handled these Pakistani grooming gangs are being incarcerated for hate crime posts. And you say they're just appealing to emotion by telling you these stories. Do you see where we have the disconnect? Are you beginning to understand why we have that disconnect? It's a damn shame. But again, sexual depravity aside, this is demonic. Where's this across the board? Where is this taking place? Where is this taking place? We're speaking specifically with regard to the UK thing. Early on, Ryan, when you took the jab early on, he's like, hey, what about the Catholic priest? Right. I don't need to mention the Catholic priest thing. I will, and I'll certainly call him out. That was abhorrent. That was deplorable. That was inexcusable. But if for whatever reason in the middle of a rant, I forget to mention the Catholic priest, there are going to be 30 other people to jump in and go, well, the Catholic priest did on little boys. Right. We all know about that. But if I don't mention a Pakistani grooming gang in the UK, who's going to jump in? Particularly when, even when I do mention it, there are people who would rather I not. It's the double standard that we're talking about. Everybody wants to rush to the defense of the marginalized group, and everybody wants to take the easy poke. Catholicism? Absolutely. Christians' biggest plight is Islam and Zionism. Absolutely. Absolutely, and without equivocation. Absolutely. What the Catholic Church did to cover that up is abhorrent, and nobody has any problem saying so. What the British government is doing to cover up the issue with the Pakistani rape gangs is abhorrent. But you're locked up in the United Kingdom for even mentioning it. And you wonder why people are upset. You wonder why we've hit a pivot point. You wonder why far-right groups are coming to prominence politically in the United Kingdom and all over Europe right now. Because they've literally had enough. They've played your game. They've done the worship of tolerance. They've done embracing diversity. They've done it, and they've seen the end result of it. Sad, tragic, factual. Sorry. In any case, demons are real. Right. Yeah, we have grooming gangs too. Wayfair. Yeah. Demons are real. They're coming for you. They're coming for your kids. So for the physical manifestations, I would recommend, as I always do, that you put your ass under some iron and your face in some scripture for the spiritual elements. because you might not believe in them. They believe in you. Yeah, Barbary Coast, right? You might not believe in them, but they believe in you. So you had better be ready. You had better take a serious look at the manifestations of how it is going on culturally and on an individual level. As for me, people can give me a medical explanation for what happened here, and they can make a perfectly good case for what happened there. I know what I believe. Your mileage may vary. You are entitled to your opinion. God bless you either way, and I'll keep you in my prayers. Diversity doesn't include ignoring or submitting. Not really into that anyway. Yes. But again, it's about taking a stand, as we discussed. Now, how about a departure? How about we get happy for a minute? How many people have been following? How many people have been following Bill Maher and his red pill journey over the past several years? Just sound off over here in the comments if you would. One word. Describe Bill Maher in one word. Now, you know what? I'll give you three. Describe Bill Maher in 3 words or less. I'm asking because I'm trying to illustrate the importance of talking to people who can be reached. I am constantly telling everybody disengage. Okay? I've constantly told everyone disengage. They can't be helped. They can't be reached. There's nothing to it. And Bossman's been speaking to me. Carpenter's been speaking to me on that. It's something that I wrestle with because, again, it's visceral and it's knee jerk reaction type stuff. And it's things that I need to I need to get better about. I was a fan of Bill Maher, but the one thing I've always found likable about Bill Maher is that he comes to his own positions and his own conclusions from an honest place. He doesn't just repeat somebody else's talking points, and he doesn't jump bandwagons. You guys may remember after 9/11, he made a comment, and I agreed 100% with the comment. It's what cost him his job at ABC when he was doing politically correct over at ABC. It's what cost him his job. When he talked about the thing about the towers, they said it was a cowardly act. And he said, almost verbatim, I'm paraphrasing because I'm quoting from memory, but almost verbatim, he said, that wasn't cowardly. Cowardly is launching a missile from hundreds of miles away into a factory that makes medicine for kids. That's cowardly. Actually being at the controls and flying a plane into a building, that takes some level of guts. Independent of how you may feel about Islam and 9/11, and I lost people, I had friends in that building, what do you feel? Look at the factual element of what he is saying. What takes more courage? To punch a button and launch a missile and kill people that you never met and are never going to see because you just wiped out their whole existence, or to actually bear down knowing you're about to die, grip the controls of a 737 and stare into the building that you are about to meld with. What he said was correct. Bill Maher is nothing if not intellectually honest. His ideological consistency may be off, but in my opinion, in my observation, he is intellectually honest. Let me tell you what Bill Maher did this week. At the behest of Kid Rock, apparently they smoke a lot of weed together, he went to the White House and had dinner with Donald Trump. I'm not going to go into all of the details here, but you owe it to yourself to go and watch his program from last week. Charlie, if you haven't looked at it yet, I've sent you a link where he talks about his experience going and having dinner with Donald Trump at the White House. I'm not going to spoil any of it for you. You owe it to yourself to watch. What I came away from that with was, as a Trump supporter, I came across thinking, I wish more people I wish more people would at least take Bill's approach on this. But I had to check myself. You understand? I had to check myself because all of this that I've been saying about disengage, Bill Maher had a moral point on me. He didn't just reach across the aisle. He did it in the most high profile way, even theoretically possible. And he did it in a very public forum in front of millions and millions and millions of people. I've got a very small audience. But I've been telling people, don't waste your time. Don't even engage. And largely, my knee jerking still tells me that. You'll be able to tell in the first 15, 20 seconds if this is someone that you're actually going to be able to have discourse with. Okay? But I had to seriously check myself after watching what Bill had to say about his conversation with Donald Trump. There may be people that I am never going to agree with on particular ideological points. But when we cease to carry on the conversation, and again, let me be very specific in what I'm saying and what I'm not saying here. Oftentimes, there is no conversation to be had. Okay? I would offer up as testimony anytime I make a comment on one of Christopher Titus's YouTube videos, right? Sometimes there's no conversation to be had because I'm making the comment to Chris because Chris is my friend. And he reads it and I'll hear about it. The 200 sycophant, the 200 people below him that put the fan in sycophant, unload. They don't know who I am. I'm asking very serious questions about a person whose intellect is known to me, and they just come off completely excoriating. Yeah. And Ryan, yes, I did see him and Elon. I did see him and Elon. That was fantastic. Fantastic interview. Attempt. I won't say that there's a conversation to be had. As often as not, there is no conversation to be had. But you at least have to make the attempt. Clear your own conscience. Everybody's mileage is going to vary how much they're willing to put in on it. In this day and age, with as much at stake as there is at stake, my tolerance is razor thin. Some things you will not make exceptions for. Protecting Christians, no exceptions for that. Protecting children, no exceptions for that. You come at me with anything sideways, and we'll go from zero to fist fight with the quickness. But for issues across the board and the overall zeitgeist, you have to at least make the effort. You got to make the effort. Some people are going to be, look, the people who are dialed in right now, no amount of anything is going to convince them that Donald Trump is anything less than the Antichrist. In fact, that's what set up the YouTube comment on Titus's podcast this week. Because they literally asserted that he may be the literal Antichrist. I think if you were going to make a case for one or the other, I think Elon would probably be a much better candidate. Anyway, point being, some people there's no conversation. No amount of anything is going to dissuade them. Some people have their lines in the sand. I get it. I drew most of them. I understand lines in the sand. But people who do reach across, and this was the conclusion that Bill came to, he was like, this is the only spoiler I'm going to give out of the whole thing. He said, I said to Donald Trump, he said, Donald Trump said to me, a lot of people didn't like the idea that I was meeting with you. Not all, but some. And Bill said, yeah, the same. And Bill said, the one thing that Donald Trump and I decided were the people that didn't want us to meet, We didn't like them. Fair enough. Fair enough. Clock's going to keep on ticking. Demon's going to keep on doing demon things. Christian's going to be getting down with the gospel and doing Jesus things. When it comes time to fight, it's time to fight. Time for talk might be long gone on a whole lot of things, and there's nothing to be accounted for that. And you're going to step into the fray, chin down, knuckles up, and you're going to be ready to scrap. Whether that's with a demon or whether that's with some Antifa maggot who didn't like a bumper sticker on your car or decided to throw a Molotov cocktail at your Tesla. You can't reach certain folks. Some people have already acknowledged that we're in a fight. They're bringing it to us. We're having to fight forward now. We're getting a late start. The tide is beginning to turn. But if there is a possibility for dialogue, we are morally compelled, scripturally admonished, and spiritually obligated to at least attempt to have that discussion. It may or may not become productive. But like anything else, you cannot negotiate from a position of weakness. If you walk into that discussion with people who have established that they want a fight, if you walk into that discussion and you are not prepared to fight, you have lost the debate before it even begins. You cannot negotiate from a position of weakness. You better have your facts together, and you will be ready to show you. As I have said before, I'm fond of reminding people, I am down for a debate. I am down for a cup of coffee and a conversation, or I am down for a scrap. Just let me know what I'm showing up for so I'm dressed appropriately when I get there. And I'm going to leave you with this. Because this is something I've been trying to get to for the last couple of weeks. And I think it dovetails nicely with the thing. One of the things that Bill Maher said about Donald Trump, he was like, of all of the things that I dislike about this man, none of them, and this is Bill's words, none of them, I swear to God, existed on this night. He was self-aware. He was cordial. Just watch. Please, guys, I urge you to watch. These are the things. Because people are defined by their perceptions, by others' perceptions. You understand? Bill said that all the things that he hated the most about Donald Trump did not exist on this night and during this visit. How is Donald Trump perceived by people who have never met the man? He is, to some, quite literally the Antichrist. To some, he is quite literally the Messiah. I think both are tremendously in error. The thing about heroic men is they have heroic flaws. And if people focus only on the heroic flaws, they will forget about the possible good nature and the good things that can be done by the men who hide behind those heroic flaws. What do you know about Gandhi? What do you know about Gandhi? Chased the British out of India, saved the Indian people, all these things, man of peace, hunger strikes. Did you know that he was a sex addict? He slept naked with teenage girls, including his severely underage relatives. Were you guys aware of that? To test his commitment to not having sex, allegedly. When his wife got sick, he made sure that she was denied Western medicine, which could have potentially saved her life. Later, when he fell ill with the same illness, he used that same medication on himself. So what defines Gandhi? Let me get that quote. In South Africa in 1903, Gandhi said that white people should be the predominating race, that black people were troublesome, very dirty, and lived like animals. That was just one of a dozen racist quotes from Gandhi that I have pulled up right here. And yet he's still considered a hero. What do you guys? I'm going to pull one here that's really going to blow your mind. Helen Keller. What do you know about Helen Keller? Right? Blind, deaf, and mute. Did you know that Helen Keller was an advocate for eugenics? I was today years old when I found that out. I only found this during show prep because I was pulling up a bunch of examples here of people who were historically recognized as great men who had terrible, terrible flaws. And I saw Helen Keller. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But I've got my tabs here. I'm going to read this one verbatim. Helen Keller was an advocate of eugenics when it came to mental disabilities. Helen Keller, born blind, deaf, mute, advocate of eugenics when it came to mental disabilities. In a highly publicized case in 1915, a deformed baby was allowed to die after his physician refused to operate on him. In the pages of popular newspapers and magazines, Keller defended the physician's actions against and her quote, again, typing by Braille, whatever, the cowardly sentimentalism of those who condemned the doctor, arguing that the life of the baby was not worthwhile and that he almost was sure to be a potential criminal when he grew up. Now, some people say that she never wrote any of these things, including her advocacy for communism, that this was actually her handler or whatever that was writing these things and attributing it to her. But even if that were the case, that's pretty reprehensible, don't you think? Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale was a eugenics advocate and a scathing racist. Again, this is revolutionary figure in healthcare. Nightingale supported genocide if it meant that the British Empire could expand their reign. And that, again, your personal feelings aside, however you feel about that, leave it off to the side. I am just saying perception versus reality and what defines someone. She believed that the lives of indigenous people were less important than expansion and that indigenous people were inferior. And she actually had her hand in some genocide. Ain't that something? Abraham Lincoln. Don't need to belabor any of that, but here's something you may not be aware of. He actually ordered the largest mass execution in American history. Did you know that? Public execution of 38 Lakota Sioux Indians as punishment for the Santee Sioux Uprising, which took place in August of 1862, saw over 400 white settlers killed. I would imagine the white settler thing bothered him because he was, by definition, a white supremacist. That's how the woke crowd will give it to you now. But history regards him as a great man. Scientists, the experts, they rely on science. We back the science. We support the science, all of these things. Edmund Halley, the guy that they named the comet after? Yeah, pretty brilliant guy, right? He believed in Hollow Earth. Now, if you believe in Hollow Earth, cool. Maybe you're down with that. I'm just saying that by mainstream perception, famous astronomers really don't get down with the whole hollow earth theory. Definitely don't get down with the flat earth theory, but that's something else entirely. Isaac Newton, known for his groundbreaking work in physics, Newton dabbled in alchemy. Yeah. Of course, they also put here, the AI pulled up, that he was known for believing in biblical prophecies. Ooh, wow, what a terrible thing. But again, public perception of a man versus how they're defined versus how they're remembered by history versus who they really are if you're talking to them face to face. Jack Parsons, rocket scientist, early champion of space exploration. Parsons was an occultist and influential member of Aleister Crowley's Thelema and involved in ritualistic magic. Watson, James Watson, as in Watson and Crick, co-discovered the structure of DNA, criticized for expressing views on racial differences that were deemed controversial and scientifically unsound. Feel how you want about that. Feel how you want about the people who were regarding him like that. Famous scientist. We're going to go with science, or are we going to cherry pick science the way we cherry pick scripture? And that's a whole different conversation. MLK. Bill, how you want about him? Frequented prostitutes, preferred white prostitutes, and would regularly beat women. Both consensual intimate partners and ones that he paid for sex. He beat women. Jimi Hendrix, one of the most renowned guitarists in the face of rock and roll. Also one of the most well endowed, according to the Plaster Casters and a number of other groupie eyewitnesses. Frequently beat the shit out of his women. Kathy Etchingham, his London girlfriend, a couple of girlfriends that he had here in the States. Domestic abuser. What defines Hendrix? And my personal favorite, Saul of Tarsus. What defines him? The fact that he tortured and murdered thousands of God's best and brightest before his moment on the road to Damascus. One of the most powerful things I've ever heard in my life, and you've heard me talk about it before. Before his moment on the road to Damascus, he tortured tens of thousands of God's best and brightest. After that moment, he was stricken blind. God pulled the scales from his eyes, and he wrote almost the entire New Testament from in prison. And when they finally got around to martyring him, this was the powerful part somebody hit me with. When he entered heaven, he entered to the cheers of every soul that he had ever murdered. When I think about public perception defining someone and who they really are, these are the things that I process because of this info that's floating around my head and because of the information that's easily accessible here in the age of information where ignorance is a choice. I don't give a damn about public perception with regard to a lot of these things. Who are you? No easy answer to that, is there? Public perception is not going to determine my perception. I can only make my judgments based on best observation. I cannot take the public perception or any one specific set of information and say that this person is this without equivocation. And neither can you. The minute we shut off the possibility for redemption, then we've closed a conversation that is infinitely more important than any sort of political discourse. That is one of the reasons why so many people are more prone to follow the carpenter than they are to follow the pedophile prophet Muhammad. Why? Because in Christianity there is redemption. For all of its flaws, the belief system that honors the carpenter allows for confession, repentance, and atonement for those who truly seek. No man is defined by his beliefs. God forbid if we all were. How horrible that would be to live through. No man is defined by his beliefs. No man is defined by his sexuality. Ooh. No man is entirely defined by his racial politics. Ooh, another scary one. No man is entirely defined by his faith. Man is only defined by what God has ordained for him and the way that he lives up to that role. Anyone else's perceptions are immaterial. I speak what I perceive to be the truth. I don't say that I speak my truth. You got to live your truth, bro. You don't have your truth. What did the carpenter say? I am the way, the truth, and the life. I don't have a truth of my own to live. I have a truth of my own to perceive. I have a truth of my own to spout. I have an opinion to express to the rest of you. But I am not defined by any one facet of my existence. And if that is the standard that I'm going to be held to, I've got to hold myself and everyone else to that same standard. You entertain some racist beliefs, but you volunteer at the food bank every Saturday and Sunday. You got a little bit of a porn habit, but you do volunteer work for the Bishop's Storehouse over the holidays when they really need the help. You participate in prison Bible outreach and carry the message of Jesus Christ to people who are incarcerated. But you smoke too much weed and you drop the occasional N-bomb in everyday conversation. The bottom line is this: I am not the one to judge. That is something that you get to take up with the boss man and the carpenter. I am not responsible for anyone else's perception of me or how they choose to define me by any one facet of my existence. I am only responsible to the boss man and the carpenter for how I carry myself with the gifts that I have been given through the grace of God, and how I carry forth the gospel and how I evangelize by example. That is what we need to be focusing on. Clean up your own backyard before you go knocking on your neighbor's door, and don't be commenting on the way that he trims his damn lawn. But if he comes across that fence to put hands to your child or damage your home or defile what you have built, you end him. I'm not responsible for the way other people choose to define me because I cannot control their perceptions. What I have control over is my actions. My actions, the way that I choose to live, the people that I choose to love, and the way that I choose to love them. That is what defines me. How do you define yourself? And when you stand before your Maker, can you look him in the eye and say to him what you want to say to me right now with a straight face? I hope that you can. If you cannot, reflect, course correct, make the necessary adjustments in your life, because we got 2 ways to go. Well done, my good and faithful servant, and depart from me, I never knew you. You do not want to be on the receiving end of the latter. I pray for y'all. I know that each and every one of you have the love of Christ. I know that each and every one of you have the grace of God. I know that each and every one of you are in the presence of the Holy Spirit. What I don't know, I can only pray. And I pray that each and every one of my brothers and sisters finds the light of Christ, finds the truth, and feels that peace that passes all understanding. For anyone who seeks to interfere with that process, believe me, I am ready to go down fighting. Christ came to earth, God made manifest in the flesh, suffered, scourged, tortured, murdered, horribly to pay the price for what I have done. I aim to honor that. I hope that each and every one of you comes to feel that conviction in your heart. And you can walk in the light of his truth, the truth of his light, without giving a damn about the perception of anyone else. You are not defined by them. You are not defined by how the world sees you. You are defined by how God sees you. So when you are looking for somebody to impress, when you are looking for somebody to show your best side, when you are looking for somebody to honor and respect, prioritize accordingly. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. I'm going to close with a prayer. Lord God, on this Palm Sunday, we remember your triumphant ride into Jerusalem. We remember how the mob cheered you on and then just days later turned their back, how they flipped on you. We know the whole story, Lord. The price that you paid for us, the betrayal, the pain. You barely even comprehend it. But I sit here appreciative of it, Lord. I sit here appreciative of it. Coming up on Good Friday and then Easter Sunday, the resurrection. Ooh, he is risen. They can worship whatever God was spoken of in Isaiah, whatever idol, their wooden idols, their golden idols, their everything. I worship a God that conquered the grave, son. I take a lot of strength from that. The God that I follow is the one that conquered the grave. I hope that we all can take that strength. I hope that we can all see clearly, utilize that discernment that we're always praying for, Lord, and see clearly the way that this culture twists things up, the way that people that we had previously respected get caught up in it, and the way that we ourselves even get tricked and deceived. To be able to course correct, to be able to reflect and check ourselves and pull ourselves out of it, and to at least engage with those other people, that they could see, that they could develop that perspective, that we keep that open dialogue. Please, Lord, soften their hearts and open their ears, and keep me in a place of gratitude and humility, lest I get caught up in my own pride, start thinking I've got all the answers. I have nothing, Lord. Nihil sine Deo. I am nothing without God. I'm thankful for your presence in my life. I'm thankful for these great men that you have put in my path. I'm thankful for the opportunity to share with these people. They keep showing up, Lord. They keep showing up. Help me to deliver for them, Lord. For anyone who's out there struggling, they can hear the sound of my voice. Reach out. Reach out. We're here for you. Whether you're in the faith or not, we're here for you. May your grace be upon us all. May your grace be upon us all. We certainly have never earned it and never could. But there's a hill worth dying on, and that is defending the faith, Lord. That is defending the faith. For all the people caught up in the lies of the adversary, for all the people caught up in that degeneracy, that demonic possession masquerading as mental illness, that demonic possession, that demonic activity masquerading as cultural malaise and cultural degeneracy, all of that. Help us to recognize it for what it is and to stand in the face of it, to call it out fearlessly and to rebuke it in your name. And if the minions of the adversary choose to take that spiritual war physical, let us be ready to meet it, force for force. Not fighting back, Lord, fighting forward. I pray these things in the name of the risen Christ, scourged, tortured, and murdered for our redemption, washed in his blood, price paid in full. It is in his name that I come before you seeking counsel. And it is the kingdom of the triune God, Father, Son, and Spirit that I ever serve. Amen and amen. God bless y'all, man. Appreciate you being here, man. Really appreciate you being here. I'm going to throw the collection plate out there, guys. I'm going to pass it around. You guys already know the drill. It's a little digital collection plate. I'm on Cash App. Anything I said threw, something your way, improved your life a little bit, or if you're just paying me to shut up, you can put a note on that. Hey, man, do me a favor. Don't show up next Sunday. And with the proper contribution, I might be talked into showing up late. I don't know. You guys know the drill, man. I'm on Cash App. I'm on PayPal. I'm on Venmo. I'm on Facebook. I'm on everything. You guys can find me, man. If you want to drop something in the collection plate, that would be really, really cool. Come on, where we at? There it is. There it is. Sorry, having a little problem with my production screen right here. Or it was, and this thing still doesn't want to cooperate. Come on, man. Don't play with me right now. What's going on? What's going on, iTunes? Oh, there we go. Finally, man. Get the closing music going on. Anyway, the best cover of Fortunate Son ever done by Neil Fallon and Clutch. You can disagree because it is your right to be wrong. In any case, if you can't kick down, I totally get that, man. We are still sorting through our economic difficulties right now. Here's what you can do. You guys can share the program. If you got your own Facebook page or your own Twitter feed or whatever, share the program with everybody else. Just let them know, man. Fat, crippled, toothless crane operator with some opinions showing up every Sunday, ranting and raving for a couple hours just to, like mind, kindred spirit. Maybe you get something out of the program. Share the program with them, man. Get that word out. Help me out, and we'll all bring it together. But here's what you can do. Moreover, above and beyond anything else, Stone, I didn't see you this week, but if Stone were here, he would tell you these are the things that you can do not just for me, but for yourselves, primarily for yourselves, and that is hashtag live the three. Live the three. What are you talking about? Live the three. Yeah, the three, man. The prime directives. The Planet Bart prime directives. What's that about? Well, there are 3 rules to live by here on Planet Bart. Rule number 1 is light and is signal in a world full of noise. The noise are the distractions. The noise are the deceptions. The signal is the truth. You've got to carry that signal through to the other side of the noise. You've got to be the signal in a world full of noise. Light in the darkness. What's that about? You have got to have the truth and the light. They will try to bury you in the darkness. They will try to make you think there's nothing but the darkness. It's the lies, it's the distractions, it's the deceptions. They will try to demoralize you, dehumanize you, emasculate you with the darkness. You have got to be that light. That light that shines through that far-reaching fog, or the light that punches through to the other side so people can see that there's a light on the other side of that darkness. You've got to be that light. Rule number 3, the iron rule, the most important. You have got to be strength in a world full of weakness. And I'm not talking about just this kind of strength. This kind of strength is important, don't get me wrong. But it's got to be here, and it's got to be here, and it's definitely, fellas, got to be here. Why? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters. Without strength, you will not have the punch to get that signal through the noise. Without strength, you will not have the tenacity and endurance to carry that light through that far-reaching darkness. So strength above all. And when you pray, you hit your knees at night, strength, clarity, and discernment. Clarity and discernment is important, man, because the lies of the deceiver are out there. They're trying to mislead you. They're trying to entrap you. You got to be sharp, man. You need that clarity. You need that discernment. Pray for it. Get your face in some scripture. Get your ass under some iron. Get ready for the fight. It ain't coming. It's already here. Chin down, knuckles up. God bless y'all. Love every single one of you, man. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. See you next Sunday. God bless. Deus Vult. I love y'all.